Most people think passive income is for people who already have money. They're wrong. Owen makes $58,000 a year. He drives to work 5 days a week, 2 weeks of vacation, and every January he watches his PTO reset to zero. He decided he was done with that. Not because he hates his job, because he wanted the option to walk away. This is the portfolio he built to get there. 5 assets, $10 a day, and 30 years of math doing the heavy lifting for him. Quick thing before we get into it, nothing in this video is financial advice. This is purely educational. Always do your own research before putting money anywhere. Alright, let's go. Before Owen picks a single fund, he gets clear on one thing. What number makes the job optional? He's bringing home about $4,800 a month after taxes. That's his number, $5,000 a month from his portfolio, whether he shows up Monday or not. The Federal Reserve's 2024 survey of consumer finances found that the median American household has almost nothing generating passive income. Savings account interest maybe, a couple $100 a year. That's it. Owen wants something completely different. $5,000 hitting his account every single month. Not from selling assets, not from working overtime, from owning things that pay him. The problem is he doesn't have a lump sum. He has $10 a day he can move before he thinks about spending it. So the question isn't whether the math works. It does. The question is whether he can leave it alone long enough for the math to finish. And this is where most people accidentally destroy the whole plan before it even starts. They open a Roth IRA, throw everything into VOO, and they feel good about it. They're investing, they're growing wealth, and they are. That part's true. VOO is an excellent fund. It just solves a different problem. Because 20 years in, they check the dividend yield. VOO is currently paying around 1.3%. Even with a $400,000 account, that's $400 a month. Not $5,000, $400. The only way to close that gap is to start selling shares. And the moment you start selling, the account starts shrinking. You're not building for growth when your actual goal is income. And those are two different destinations. You can't take the same road to both. Owen sees this early and walks right around it. He's not building a pile he has to chip away at later. He's building a machine that produces cash every month. But here's where it gets interesting. Think about it this way. Growth investing is like planting an apple tree and then cutting pieces of it off every time you want to eat. Eventually, if you keep cutting too aggressively, the tree gets smaller and smaller. Income investing is planting the tree and just picking the apples. The tree stays. The apples keep coming. A bad year doesn't kill the tree. You just get fewer apples that season. That's what dividends are. The company makes money. You own part of the company. The company sends you part of its profit. You don't have to sell a thing. Some companies do this every quarter. Some do it every single month. And the good ones raise that payment every year, even when the market is going sideways. That's the portfolio Owen is building. And before he picks a single fund, he runs everything through 3 filters. This part matters more than the funds themselves. Every fund has to pass all 3. No exceptions. First is yield. What percentage of his investment comes back to him as cash every year? A fund paying 1% isn't going to replace a paycheck in any realistic time frame. He needs funds that actually matter today, not just on paper. Second is durability. A high yield that gets cut in year 4 is worse than useless. He wants funds with long, boring track records of paying their dividends through recessions, rate hikes, inflation, all of it. Third is diversification. A single company can fail. A fund holding 500 companies can lose 10 of them and barely notice. That's the difference between income you can rely on and income that just feels reliable until it isn't. 3 filters, no exceptions. Now here's the part most people get completely wrong when they try to build this. Owen doesn't just grab 5 high-yield funds and call it done. He splits the portfolio across 5 fundamentally different income sources. Not 5 similar funds, 5 different engines. If one category has a rough year, the others don't care. Asset 1 is BND, Vanguard Total Bond Market ETF. This is the anchor, the most boring fund in the portfolio. Over 10,000 bonds in a single ticker. US government debt, corporate bonds, mortgages. When you own BND, you're the lender. Governments and companies are paying you interest every month. Current yield is around 4%. And it pays monthly, not quarterly. When stock markets get rough, bonds often move differently. That's the job here. Keep the floor from falling out when everything else is getting hit. This solves a different problem from everything that comes next. Asset 2 is SCHD, Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. This one holds about 100 of the strongest dividend-paying companies in America, companies that have raised their dividends for at least 10 straight years, the kind that kept paying through 2008, through COVID, through every rough patch the market has thrown at them. Current yield is around 3.25%, but the 10-year dividend growth rate is over 10% a year. Owen isn't just getting paid, he's getting paid more every single year, and the share price has been climbing at close to 9% a year on top of that. SCHD is the compounding engine of the portfolio. B and D gives you the floor. SCHD gives you the climb, and this is where most people stop. 2 or 3 funds, and they're done, but stopping here leaves one of the biggest risks completely unaddressed. Asset 3 is IXUS, iShares Core MSCI Total International Stock ETF. Owen isn't betting everything on the US, and America has had bad decades before, and it'll have them again. IXUS gives him exposure to roughly 4,000 companies across Europe, Asia, and emerging markets. Yield sits around 2.8% with steady dividend growth over the last decade. This is the insurance policy. If the US market stalls for 10 years, and that has happened, IXUS keeps the income flowing. This solves a completely different problem, geographic concentration risk. Asset 4 is VNQ, Vanguard Real Estate ETF. Real estate has a legal quirk that works entirely in Owen's favor. The companies inside VNQ are called REITs, Real Estate Investment Trusts. By law, they're required to pay out at least 90% of their taxable income to shareholders. They don't have a choice. That's why real estate funds yield more than most regular stock funds. VNQ currently yields around 3.5% to 4%, paid quarterly. People will always need somewhere to live and somewhere to work. The rent gets collected. Owen gets his cut. No tenants, no maintenance calls, no property managers, just the income. This solves a different problem again. Real asset income that doesn't just track stock markets. Now, Asset 5. This one catches almost everyone off guard when they first see it. Asset 5 is JEPI, JP Morgan Equity Premium Income ETF. JEPI owns a basket of large US companies, similar to the S&P 500. But on top of that, the fund sells call options against those positions every single month. JP Morgan actually publishes exactly where the yield comes from. About 15 to 20% comes from regular stock dividends. The other 80 to 85% comes from those options premiums. The result is a yield of around 8.5% right now, paid every single month. There is a real trade-off here, and Owen knows it going in. JEPI won't fully capture the upside when the market runs hard. And because the yield comes partly from options activity, it can shift as market conditions change. He's not trying to maximize his account balance, he's trying to maximize his monthly income. Different goal, different tool. So, 5 funds, 5 different problems solved. Now let's see what this actually looks like over 30 years. Owen puts 20% of his $10 a day into each of those 5 funds. Every dividend gets reinvested automatically. He doesn't touch it. Before the numbers, these are projections based on historical averages. Markets shift. Dividends can be cut, nothing is guaranteed. But the math gives you a real target to aim at. The portfolio's blended yield comes out to around 4.5%. Dividend growth averages around 5.5% a year. Share price appreciation averages around 3% a year. Year 1. Owen has put in $3,650. The account is doing its thing. He's not watching it. Year 10. He's contributed $36,500. The account is projected to be worth around $55,000. Monthly income from dividends is somewhere around $250 to $270. Not life-changing yet. It's not supposed to be. Year 20. Contributions total $73,000. Projected account value is around $200,000. Monthly dividend income is somewhere around $1,200. That's a car payment covered, a phone bill, a couple utility bills, every single month. Year 30. This is where the math gets serious. Projected account value somewhere between $650,000 and $700,000. Owen has personally put in $109,500. The rest, over $500,000, came from dividends reinvested, share price growth, and time doing its job. Monthly dividend income, around $5,300 a month, without needing to sell a single share to get there, without showing up anywhere on Monday morning. That's the job becoming optional. Owen didn't start with a lot. He started with $10 a day and a clear goal. The thing most people get wrong isn't the amount, it's the direction. They're building for growth when their actual goal is income. Those aren't the same portfolio. 5 assets, 3 filters, 1 goal, $10 a day, 30 years of patience. The math can work if you give it enough time. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, the structure, the funds, the reasoning behind each one, hit subscribe. 1 video a week, no filler. Just the stuff that actually moves the needle. The next one's already up, links on screen.